Welcome to Impartial Points and our explainer on oil prices and recessions. Why a drop in oil can signal economic trouble ahead. When gas prices fall at the pump, it feels like good news, a break for your budget, relief at the register. But economists often see it differently, because in the world of financial indicators, a sharp decline in oil prices isn't always a sign of health. Sometimes it's a warning, a red flag, a signal that a recession may be around the corner. In this video, we'll explore why oil prices often decline before a recession, and why economists pay close attention to the global energy market when trying to predict downturns. In this video, we'll break down the connection between oil prices and economic demand, why falling oil prices can be a sign of weakening growth, the historical relationship between oil and recessions, and how this knowledge can help you better understand where the economy may be headed. Let's dig into one of the world's most closely watched commodities and what it tells us about the future. What drives the price of oil? To understand why oil prices signal economic shifts, we first need to understand how oil prices are set. At its core, the price of oil, like any commodity, is determined by supply and demand. On the supply side, major oil-producing countries like Saudi Arabia, the US, and Russia pump millions of barrels a day. OPEC, the Organization of the Petroleum Exporting Countries, often coordinates production to keep prices within a certain range. Wars, sanctions, and drilling technology also impact how much oil is available. On the demand side, oil is the lifeblood of modern economies. It fuels transportation, powers industries, and supports agriculture, shipping, construction, and more. When the economy is growing, demand for oil rises, and when the economy slows, demand for oil falls. So when oil prices drop significantly, one of two things is usually happening. There's too much supply flooding the market, or more ominously, demand is falling because the economy is slowing down. It's that second scenario that economists watch for closely. Oil as a leading economic indicator. In economic terms, a leading indicator is something that changes before the economy as a whole changes. It provides a glimpse of what's coming. Oil prices are one of those indicators, and here's why. When businesses anticipate lower consumer demand, they start producing less. Factories slow down. Fewer goods are shipped. Less fuel is needed for transporting and manufacturing. This leads to a decline in oil consumption, even before recession headlines hit the news. And since oil markets operate on futures and expectations, prices often react quickly, falling in anticipation of lower demand. In other words, falling oil prices can be the economy's way of whispering that trouble is ahead, or that trouble has already started and not everybody has noticed. Historical evidence when oil fell before the crash. History backs up the idea that oil prices dropping due to demand issues is a sign of trouble. Let's look at a few major examples where oil prices dropped and a contraction followed. 2000 and 2001. In the months leading up to the dot-com bust, oil prices began to decline amid falling manufacturing output and lower global demand. The recession officially hit in 2001. 2008. In July 2008, oil peaked at over $140 per barrel. But as the housing crisis worsened, demand collapsed, and by December, oil prices had fallen below $40. The Great Recession was already underway. 2014 to 2016, oil prices plummeted massively. While the U.S. avoided a full-blown recession, many oil-producing regions faced massive job losses and economic contraction. 2020. In early 2020, as the COVID-19 pandemic spread and lockdowns began, oil demand fell so dramatically that prices temporarily turned negative, something that had never happened before. A global recession followed almost immediately. In all of these examples, oil didn't just react to the economy, it provided an early warning of what was coming. Supply versus demand shocks, why the context matters. But here's the nuance. Not all oil price declines mean a recession is coming. You have to look at why oil prices are falling. Supply-driven drops. When oil prices fall because supply increases, like a new oil field discovery or a major country pumping more, it's not necessarily a sign of economic trouble. In fact, it can lead to lower energy costs, which help consumers and businesses spend more. This kind of drop is usually expansionary. Demand-driven drops. But when prices fall because demand is shrinking, that's where the warning lights flash. It often means consumers are spending less, businesses are cutting back, and the overall economy is cooling off. These demand-side declines are the ones most likely to precede a recession. It's the direction and cause that matter, not just the fact that prices fell. Oil and financial markets, a signal for Wall Street. Oil prices don't just affect the real economy. They also impact financial markets and investor psychology. When oil drops sharply, investors start to worry about falling demand. That concern can ripple through stock markets, especially in energy and industrial sectors. Corporate earnings expectations, which often rely on strong consumer activity. Bond markets, where falling oil prices can influence inflation projections and interest rate expectations. In fact, oil price declines often coincide with volatility in equity markets, as investors begin shifting towards safer assets. This is why oil often acts as a market canary in the coal mine, a sign that something might be going wrong in the broader economy. Global implications. Oil isn't just a U.S. issue, it's a global commodity. Falling oil prices can do a lot, like crush the budgets of oil-dependent countries like Venezuela, Nigeria, and Russia. Trigger currency crises, especially for nations that rely on oil exports. Disrupt geopolitical stability, as falling revenues strain governments already under pressure. And since global economies are increasingly interconnected, a demand-driven drop in oil in one part of the world often signals slowing activity everywhere. In short, when oil prices fall fast, the whole world starts to feel it. Does cheaper oil help consumers? Of course, there's a paradox here. Lower oil prices can also help consumers, at least in the short term. Gasoline gets cheaper. Shipping costs go down. Airlines, food producers, and delivery services all benefit. This means families may have more disposable income for other goods and services. But in a demand-driven oil drop, those savings often go unspent because people are feeling uncertain about the future. It's the difference between opportunity and anxiety. When people save their oil-related windfall instead of spending it, the economy doesn't get the boost it normally would. So yes, cheaper oil can be helpful, but when it's driven by fear, it's rarely a good sign. Can falling oil prices cause a recession? Now let's be clear, falling oil prices don't cause recessions on their own. But they can signal that one is coming, amplify existing weaknesses, and trigger economic pain in energy-producing regions and industries. In some cases, like in 2015, sharp declines in oil led to layoffs, bankruptcies, and declining investment, especially in U.S. shale-producing areas. These regional slowdowns can spill over into the broader economy, making an already fragile situation worse. So while oil isn't the villain economically, environmentally is a different video, it's often one of the first things to fall when the storm clouds begin to gather. How do you read the signals? So how can you interpret falling oil prices in real time? Ask these questions. Are oil prices falling alongside other indicators? Watch job growth, manufacturing output, and consumer spending. If they're softening too, it may be a sign of trouble. Is supply steady or rising? If supply hasn't changed but prices are still falling, demand is likely weakening. Are energy stocks also falling? A drop in oil and oil company valuations is a stronger recession signal. What are central banks doing? If they're pausing or cutting rates after oil falls, they may also see the decline as a sign of economic weakness. Summary: oil isn't just a fuel, it's a signal. A sudden decline in oil prices can be the economy's way of saying, slow down, ahead. And while it might bring short-term savings at the pump, it often foreshadows something bigger, like falling demand, slowing growth, and in some cases, full-blown recession. Understanding this connection won't stop the next downturn, but it can help you see it coming and prepare. Because sometimes the clearest sign of trouble doesn't shout. It quietly slips into your tank at a discount and leaves the economy vulnerable. And next time oil prices start to tumble, don't just celebrate, pay attention. We hope you found this discussion informative and insightful. Until next time, stay curious and keep exploring the world of information at your fingertips. If you found this video helpful, please like, subscribe, and share with others. Join us next time on Impartial Points.